How will tonight's drafters handle the Jacksonville backfield? Is Khalil Shakir in for a draft night tumble? And will one of these 12 drafters win a $1 million grand prize in the Big Gorilla? We've got coverage of the FFPC Big Gorilla Draft tonight. 12 players battling it out for $1 million. We got a great show for you. Ferrell Elliott is live and in here right now. Aidan Liquorie is here as well. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than these or lesser.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by myffpc.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-hosts are the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one Ferrell Elliott, live in Appleton, Wisconsin for the Mile of Music Festival here. So glad you're aboard tonight, man.
Live high five to prove it.
All right, live high five. There we go. And we have some live Wisconsin bourbon here, which I know is probably, I shouldn't be showing this because all people in Kentucky are going to be disowning.
It's quite good. It's quite good.
It's good. It's good bourbon. So we got that flowing tonight. And we also have the flows and the dulcet tones of one Aidan Liquorie, live in North Carolina. Aidan, welcome aboard, FFPC Media Coordinator. Good evening, sir.
How you guys doing? I didn't even know when I was hopping on today you guys would be together. That's such a lovely surprise.
Yeah, it is. It's been good so far tonight. Ferrell got a chance to spend some time with the Dizzle. We're going to try to hook up after this and then at some point this weekend as well. But before we get to that, we have to get to tonight's draft here. We've got live coverage of an FFPC Big Gorilla Draft. This is the culmination of live draft week. You have seen a live draft on the FFPC socials every single night this week. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we had pros versus Joes. Wednesday, Aidan brought you main event coverage with Dave Tripoli and the Sports Gambling Podcast guys. Justin Herzig and I had best ball tournament coverage on Insider Access last night. Now we're doing Big Gorilla tonight. Hopefully this will become a staple. We'll just do one big live draft week every single year. At hsffhour on X, at Eric Balkman, at Aidan Liquorie on X as well. KFFSC.com is where to go. Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, playing that. We have 3 leagues close to filling on that, Ferrell. I had it up and now I closed it.
In our main event, 3 leagues are close to filling, 2 online, which will be live online, and 1 slow. One named the Super Jesse Slow. One of these days there'll be a Super Aidan. But right now in Kentucky we have a Super Jesse, and I don't think many of our drafters will know Jesse Bumstead, but Top Dogs will. He's coming up in the number 11.
He is. Yeah, Jamie Cox drafting tonight, which is very cool. We'll get to that in a second. highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com, facebook.com/hsffhour. We'll try to get to all the X posts, emails, and posts in the YouTube chat right now. FFPC Main Event, FFPC Big Gorilla, both $1 million grand prizes, both have live and slow drafts filling up right now at myffpc.com. $1 million grand prize. There's $6 million plus prize pool in the FFPC Main Event. And we also have the $300,000 FFPC Best Ball Tournament as well. $100,000 runner-up prize in that for the first time ever this year. And then we also have the FFPC Dynasty Draft. Startups going on all throughout the summer, 2,000 plus leagues and decade and a half, and they have never folded, not a single one. Let's get into tonight's draft, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, I'm going to bring up the board right now and tell you who is actually drafting in this tonight. I think we have, so it's up right now. We have the number 1 pick tonight was Craig Mastro. Craig Mastro, former guest of this show. The Mastradamus takes Jamar Chase at the 101. Paul Teixeira, who drafted last night in the Best Ball Tournament, drafting tonight. Bijan Robinson is his pick there at the 102, no surprise. Matthew Book's Cool Hand Book is taking CeeDee Lamb at the 103. That's an interesting one. We'll talk about that in a second. Igor Gorbenko, his G-Men, select Jahmyr Gibbs at the 104. Our good buddy Remy LeBeau ends up going with Justin Jefferson at the 105. Frank Imbornoni is his Scarlet Squad takes Puka Nacua at the 106. Uncle Bacon and Karsten Dorawa end up taking Brock Bowers at the 107. Nice little prize for them. Malik Neighbors goes to our friend Adam Hahn, Ferrell. He ends up going with Save Balky's Beard. Ends up going.
Best name.
It's a good name. Malik Neighbors is his pick there at the 108. I like that pick. 109 is Saquon Barkley to David Fowler. Matt Fay's team at 110 takes Trey McBride. And then, of course, Jamie Cox, our good buddy from Kentucky. The top dogs, he gets Ashton Genty at 11. Brady Stewart, CT ESPN drafting 12th tonight. Starts off with McCaffrey and St. Brown. Ferrell, I'll pitch this to you right away. CeeDee Lamb at the 103. You would not do this because you would have taken Barkley there, right?
I would have taken a running back there because you know how I love those running backs. And I might have been taking Bowers. What's most interesting about this first round is we almost got through it. Is CT ESPN. Who is that cat?
That is Brady Stewart.
If Brady had helped us out by putting Amon-Ra St. Brown as his first round pick and then leading off the second with McCaffrey, we could say McCaffrey finally dropped out of the first round, which we did not see in the pros versus Jones at all.
We saw him going like he went more often in the first half of the first round rather than
he was it. But that's the difference. Now you might say best ball versus managed, but you also the fact these guys are the shows putting down their dollars to win that prize.
So the other one I want to bring up here, or the next one I want to bring up. What do you make of Frank Imbornoni taking Puka Nacua at 106, knowing that he's not exactly been the healthiest guy in the world, and Matthew Stafford is not exactly the healthiest quarterback in the world right now either?
Well, you know, Frank's going to go get his guys. Let's see who he gets here at number 6. If you believe in Nacua that strongly, you got to take him. But maybe Frank's not going to draft a variety of teams or a big number of teams. So he says that this is one of his teams. He's going to get Nacua tonight.
We have, let's see here, McCaffrey. Aidan, I know how Ferrell feels about Christian McCaffrey. How do you feel about McCaffrey this year, especially given the fact that you only have to invest a late first-round pick into him?
I mean, I think that's fantastic. You know, as you guys both said, most drafts you're seeing him, go probably, in that pick number 6 to 8 range. I think he's been going at the 108 on average over the last couple of days in this format. But so when you see him drop to this later ends of the rounds, it does catch your eye because, I mean, the case has already been pitched on Balky. I know many of our shows where he's arguably the biggest wild card in fantasy. If he does stay healthy and can return to health or even, 85, 90% of what he was, you're getting a top 3 player in fantasy football. These guys are drafting for $1 million. I think you have to take the risk there. And almost certainly getting a value at the 112, you're not investing, a top 6, you're not passing on guys. I think you can feel even more comfortable in the 12 spot drafting Christian McCaffrey. So I'm all aboard.
Analytics like that, I believe, Balky, that you will have to sit down your phone, pick up your glass, and we will have to drink to Aidan. Aidan, that was wonderful.
Cheers, Aidan. Good stuff.
You'll notice I'm having my bourbon out of a cocktail glass. Balky is having his out of a beer glass.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long night or perhaps a short night over here, Aidan.
You guys know what I have next to me? I have what whoever wins this league is going to be taking home. Look at this, fellas.
Oh, yeah, the Big Gorilla coin.
Yeah, the little Big Gorilla.
Love that.
There we go. How about
cool.
that?
Hold on. Hold that up, Aidan. I want to go.
Look at that. Balky left. He's gone. I'm still here. Draft is gone. This is what these drafters are going for anyone tuning in. Obviously, we do the coins, the medallions every year. The Big Gorilla coin this year, 2025 league champ right there in the back, a little bananas trophy. Fellas like that? There we go. Had to show that off a bit. I'm sure that will be in the emails in the coming weeks.
Yeah, we got to get that in the emails, and by we I mean me. I'm drinking out of a beer pint glass tonight because my Yahtzee shaker is in the dishwasher, so that's why I'm drinking bourbon out of a pint glass. Guys, I want to bring in our first guest tonight. I believe he is drafting. Let me see here right now. He is drafting from the second hole. Just took Lad McConkey. Let's bring him on right now. Is this Paul Teixeira that is gracing us tonight?
The one and only from
Paul
the Great White North.
Former guest of the show and a guy who has been drafting like a madman this year. You draw the 2 spots tonight. Probably pretty happy to get. Well, now before we get into that, you're on the clock right now here at the 3:02. Paul, what are you thinking?
Well, I wanted Kittle, but he went a touch early. So I'm going to go. I started with Bijan. I'm going to go receiver and receiver again here. So I'm debating between Tyreek Hill here and Garrett Wilson.
Oh, Wilson. Let's go.
Ferrell loves Garrett Wilson
I
here.
want it to be the-
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Ferrell.
Oh, man, I'm so glad. A little pat on the back from over here. Thank you.
You know, and the other thing too with Wilson, the target share should be much higher for him. I would think, especially if Jalen Waddle has a rebound season. There's no threat on New York to Garrett Wilson, whereas Tyreek Hill still has Jalen Waddle there as well. Robinson, McConkey, Wilson, dude, this is a strong start with a lot of targets on your squad, Paul.
Yeah, I'm liking it so far. I mean, like I said, I was trying to be different and go tight end early. On most of my drafts, I haven't done that. So just to be different a bit. But I'm loving this start. Yeah, I'm cool with it.
You can go early on different tight ends later. What would be considered early for their for their draft position, their ADP. And you know what? I think I can see that continuing in your build towards a championship here.
Yeah. I didn't hear what you said there. Sorry, Elliot.
Oh, buddy, I'm saying go get some more tight ends a little later in this draft. It'll be great. I better speak up.
Paul, what has been your
people seem to be waiting on tight end and quarterback this year if you don't get those big guys. So that seems to be a pattern that I'm noticing. So, I mean, it just depends on what's happening in the room, really.
So, and I said you've drafted a bunch. You drafted obviously on the stream earlier this week. Have you found yourself waiting on tight ends more often than not in your drafts because it seems like other people are waiting on them? Clearly, it was not a priority for you to get one of the top 3 tight ends tonight. You had your cracks at them. You decided to pass on them. Is that something that sort of like is indicative of the majority of the drafts you've done this season so far, Paul?
Yes, I agree. Basically, I've been double tapping most of the time, or grabbing like that second tier there, that Njoku, Ingram, Hawkinson type tier there. I'll grab one out of there, and then maybe someone else with upside.
We do not have any quarterbacks off the board at all. I want to ask you about Amari and Hampton. Uncle Bacon has just taken him at the 307, Paul. He has really been flying up boards because we have not heard anything super positive about Najee Harris, not really super negative as well. But Hampton, when we get to Las Vegas, when we get to Louisville in a few weeks, when we get to Las Vegas a couple weeks after that, you think Hampton's going to be settling in at that 2-3 turn? Is he going to go that high?
Well, if he scored last night, he might have been a round higher. So,
and look at this draft. 3 names off the board before your Tyreek Hill, who you were deciding amongst. One of them a receiver, Harrison, in front of Hill. I think Hill is in tonight's draft, and I think we'll see this trend continue, that he'll be moving back in the draft.
Yeah, and that it's weird because Tyreek Hill's had this sort of like roller coaster offseason where he was up, then he was down, then he was up again, and now we're seeing him. Where does he go tonight? Farrell, you just pointed out 306. 306. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there going forward. Any surprises in the draft tonight, Paul, when you look at this? I mean, I was a little surprised to see Puka Nacua go at the 106. We have the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak, popping in the YouTube chat talking about how Saquon Barkley fell in this draft, Christian McCaffrey fell in this draft. Any other things standing out to you as we are, almost 3 rounds in?
Yeah, just Harrison went a little early. I mean, I think he goes on the 3-4 turn. So that's almost a round early. So somebody likes him.
It's all about getting your guys too. We'll see what happens between Matthew Book and then I think that's Igor Gorbenko's team at the 3 and the 4. One is drafting heavy receivers. One is drafting heavy running backs. So we'll see what happens there. Paul, do you have a favorite spot? Do you like being on the ends? Do you like being in the middle when you're drafting in the FFPC?
I've been mostly drafting at the ends, like the second half of the draft. And this is my first time in the 2 slot. I actually prefer in the middle and just picking off value.
If you would have had the opportunity, if Bijan Robinson would have went 1 tonight, would you have taken Chase at 2?
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me. 1-2 there.
I
also like Gibbs a lot. So
yeah, how would between Robinson and Gibbs, you obviously like Gibbs better. But this is another player that I think is interesting this year because you have David Montgomery coming back healthy, but you have a new offensive coordinator. I think the 2 guys I trust in that offense. In order, Gibbs and then St. Brown, and then a big gap. Then it's probably Laporta and then Montgomery after that. But Gibbs, dude, I think he's totally locked in for a big year this year for sure. I wanted to ask you about McConkey. There was a report today that Keenan Allen was going to be visiting the Chargers. Wow. Does that? I saw that. Yeah, does that change the way you think about McConkey, or is that just totally non-related to taking him at the end of the second round?
No, he's. I think he's the next Cooper Cup.
Could be, very well could be. That's very astute. Paul, listen, man, we'll let you get back to the drafting action. So glad that you popped aboard tonight. Paul T. Hobbs or Habs, is it Hobbs or Habs on
Habs.
Habs? Okay,
It's the
Paul
hockey
T.
team.
The Hobbs, yeah, absolutely. The pride of Canada, the Great White North. Paul Teixeira joining us tonight. Paul, thank you so much for hopping aboard. Enjoy the rest of the draft and enjoy the rest of the drafting season, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for all the live streams. Some of these articles are boring, so you guys keep it lively.
We're all about that action, boss. Glad to have you, man. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, guys.
Be good. Let's see it. Paul Teixeira, good guy. Always good to get the Canadian guys on here.
Well,
too,
we love
Phil.
the Canadian. He could have updated the Winnipeg-Toronto score. But you know what? Look at the quarterback run that's now starting with the fourth round.
Yep.
If we had Jamie Cox here, the question I would ask you would be, Jamie at 11, did team number 12 get you really, did he get Lamar?
Yeah.
What's the word? Sniped? You've been
Sniped.
sniped.
Yeah.
I think that Jamie Cox would have gone Lamar Jackson there.
Well, and the other thing, Aidan, here, too, we'll talk about this. Team 10 tonight, which is Matt Fay's squad, he had the opportunity to take Jaden Daniels. He had the opportunity to take Josh Allen. He ends up going Joe Burrow, which I get if you have T. Higgins or if you have Jamar Chase. But naked Joe Burrow is an interesting choice here from Matt Fay, Aidan.
Yeah, round early too. We actually talked about this with the sports gambling podcast guys. Is really obviously stacking is less important when you are in a managed league comparatively to best ball. However, if you make the championship sprint comes weeks 15 through 17 and you're a Joe Burrow team, you'll be starting Joe Burrow those weeks. And more than likely, the other Joe Burrow teams you're facing are going to have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, maybe Chase Brown. So yeah, you can sprinkle it later. It just makes it much harder. Can't help but wonder, was, Team 10 looking at this and seeing T. Higgins right behind them and trying to, play a little, gamemanship within the league. They like Burrow maybe equally to Daniels and Allen and was trying to prevent a stack. But you got to be thinking, beyond just your league. So pushing Burrow a round up over a guy like Josh Allen, who I think, is way easier to win with naked Josh Allen because of the lack of elite weapons in the receiving core, is not the right move out of the 10th spot.
And we also heard, I mentioned this to Ferrell before the show too, Khalil Shakir getting nicked up in practice today. I don't think I have not seen reporting on that for the extent of that injury at all. So that's something to keep in mind as well as we move forward here.
Nicked up is exactly.
Yeah, nicked up. That's all we want. We don't.
Nicked up.
Yeah, it's all about precautionary measures, hopefully, that teams are taking right now. We don't want any kind of, I don't even want to say it, but hopefully Khalil Shakir is going to be okay.
Yeah, get in there, Shakir.
What we want to do is get to our next guest, ladies and gentlemen, a guest that Ferrell knows very well, a guest that I know very well, drafted against this guy many a time, and I don't think I've ever won a league that he has been drafting in. So tonight, we welcome him aboard live from the 11 spot, the pride of Kentucky now, besides Ferrell Elliott, Mr. Jamie Cox. Jamie, welcome in.
There he is.
Hold on, Jamie, you're muted.
Got to unmute, brother.
Hold on, maybe I can unmute him.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right.
Good job.
Jamie, welcome aboard. How's the team looking through 4 rounds?
I was really hoping T. Higgins would come around, but and Ferrell, you're wrong. I was not going to take a quarterback
You're
there.
not going to Lamar.
Not Lamar. No, not
Okay.
Lamar. We might do a little stacking later. So
Ooh, spicy. The Genty pick, Jamie, he has been falling. I wouldn't say falling, but there was a stretch of about 2.5, 3 weeks earlier this season where he was consistently going in the mid first. He's been falling to the late first now, and you scooped Genty up there. We can't ask Ferrell about the Raiders because he's biased. We know you're unbiased, so I'll ask you about Genty and how good of a pick that you think that was tonight.
it was going to be, I can't do the McCaffrey thing, and A10 was the other choice, but when Tua plays, he's one of the best. But I just think that's a safe pick, honestly. They're gonna run the ball, they're gonna throw the ball to him. I really like that pick. So I was hoping he would fall. I was hoping him or Bowers, either one would fall.
The other receivers that you've added here, Collins, Adams, Sutton. I know Adams is not the number one in Los Angeles, but all the other two guys are the number ones for their teams. That's a lot of targets here too, Jamie. I don't know if you're in Kentucky mode or whatever, but you're stacking up these stud volume target guys at wide receiver here. Was that sort of the idea that you thought you were going to go this way when you found out you had the 11 spot?
Yeah, I'm kind of going hero running back. Kind of go get a running back early, and then fill up some receiver spots. And I think 6 through 7, 8, 9, 10, you could probably get more value at running back than you can at receiver.
Jamie Cox, why didn't you consider taking Derrick Henry? He's going to score 80 fantasy points more than Gentry.
Ferrell, I just can't. Every year is one of those years where you're like, man, I should have done it, but the next year I won't do it because of 400 or whatever carries it is. And
it doesn't matter.
You just wait for that guy to break down, but he don't. He's a machine.
It doesn't matter, but that's okay. I'm glad to see you in here drafting. By the time we get you in Kentucky at the main event, I'll be able to absolutely and just maybe successfully predict a move that you're going to make. But I like the team, and congratulations. The best thing I like about it, I think Balky will agree with me, is Nico Collins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a strong pick, man.
Was it going to be him or London? I love Brian Thomas too, but I do watch the bye weeks. I don't like week 14. I plan on being in the championship game, and I don't want my stud out. So McCaffrey, but yeah. So I do watch a little bit of that. But man, you could stack up a bunch of week 8 players if you ain't careful.
Jamie, can I ask you a Bengals question, quick?
Absolutely.
So Noah Fant, is now a Cincinnati Bengal. Is this changing your fantasy interpretation of Mike Gesicki at all?
Well, instead of taking Mike Gesicki in the 17th round, I might not take him at all. So,
so no, basically no. It does not change.
No,
it doesn't change anything. Well, I asked that because Gesicki seems to be like a guy that people are drafting as if they go with one of the elite guys early on, they draft Gesicki as like a backup late, as like a top 15 to 20 guy or whatever. Yeah. And then I don't know, I've heard people saying Fant's really not going to affect what Gesicki does on the field. So his fantasy stats still should be the same. I don't know if you felt that way too.
Well, you always follow the money, and they paid Gesicki. So, that's one thing, but Fant's probably just a nice add-on, but they got some other tight ends that get snaps too. So Gesicki didn't get all the snaps last year, but
it's really a pleasure to understand that Cincinnati did pay one player. That was refreshing.
No, they paid it. They paid a few now. They paid Higgins.
They really don't want to pay anybody, but they did pay Gesicki.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Jamie, listen, we got to fly. I'm going to let you get back to it. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. Always a pleasure to talk with you. Am I going to see you in Louisville in a few weeks?
Absolutely. I'll be there Friday, all day Friday and all day Sunday. I do a 32-year, be our 33rd year of doing my home fantasy league on Saturday night. So
gotcha.
Friday and Sunday.
Yeah, perfect. Jamie, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Enjoy drafting season. We'll see you in a few weeks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. See you.
Jamie Cox is one of that. Now I got to give a shout out to one of my pals in Louisville. He's a dear friend of mine in fantasy football. He would have told Jamie to draft Lamar Jackson, and that's my good friend John Lincoln. I couldn't get on the road and do a lot of the things that I want to do without Johnny Lincoln being available to cover me on some things. So good evening, Johnny, and I hope you're doing well.
So would John have said take Lamar Jackson over Derrick Henry at the 202?
No. You would have taken Lamar Jackson.
Oh, right there. Okay, I got you at the 311.
And yeah, he would have
taken Derrick Henry at the 202.
And then we could go back to North Carolina and talk to Liquorie about stacking again, which was some of the best analysis that I've ever seen.
I'm sensing some early Louisville bias with all this Lamar Jackson discussion.
Yeah, it is.
There's plenty of it. Wait till he starts talking up Tyler Shook, then we'll let him get it up.
Wherever you go, there's number one Lamar Jackson, and we've got to live it. It's happening now, and we've got to really enjoy it. So we got it.
So Aidan, we had Bravado chiming in on YouTube talking about Team 6 is looking nice. That's Frank Imbornone's team. He started off with Nakua. You got Kittle in the second, and then Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice in the fourth. I know Adam Hahn. I don't know if he's watching this. I haven't seen him pop in yet. I know Adam does not like that Rashee Rice pick. And then James Cook here in the fifth. When you look at Team 6 here, Imbornone's Scarlet Squad, what do you think of that squad so far through 5 rounds, Aidan?
You know, it's just I like elements of it and don't like certain elements of it. So Puka Nacua at the 106. My issue with Puka Nacua, because I think he is primed for an elite season. The issue with me is every story about him, it should include his injury history dating back to his days in college. You know, he really had one healthy year in like his past 3 or 4 seasons. And that's concerning to me. But, you know, this is go get your guy time. And, you know, you can't always draft thinking about injury because, again, he has shown the potential to stay healthy. Just in general, when I'm looking at Rams receivers, just not going to panic yet on the uncertainty with Stafford. I like Devontae Adams, for example, at the 311 a little more. But Nacua, I'm iffy that early. Love Kittle. I think Dave noted in the chat, right? He's been moving up. That's going to keep moving up. Tyreek Hill, I think that's great value. Wide receiver 14 in the 3rd round for him to bounce back. Rashee Rice might have been my ride or die before kind of this news because I was fully believing that, you know, any suspension talk, any settlement, any court resolution would be during the season towards the end based on everything I read, and he wouldn't get suspended this year, although that's kind of up in the air. Although if this is around 4 games, it's not going to hurt this team too much, but it's just way harder to click that button with that looming uncertainty. I'm not a James Cook guy by any means. Love Ray Davis. Think the touchdowns are going to regress for James Cook. There's the whole hold-in situation. However, the longer this drags on, I think his ADP almost adjusts to where it should be. You know, we saw early on him going at the back end of the 3rd round, 4th round. Now he's dipping to the mid-5th. I'm comfortable taking this. Not a team that I would have picked here out of the 6th spot. It's just a lot of guys that I'm iffy on, but I understand the build, and, you know, I'm always for a wide receiver tight end heavy start, and then you could do worse than James Cook as your RB1 in a high-powered Bills offense.
You are the master of the graphics, and you made the statement you can't go through everyone's injury history. I don't think you need to, but I think a graphic could be added to the software, Balky.
Yeah.
The Liquorie red cross. And, you know, people can see it. There's a red cross next to the player's name. That means you have decided that that player has been injured too much in the past and will be injured too much in the future. And I think that's something, you know, it's not quite what Darren Armani does for the league, but I think it would be just as important.
You know, I hate to agree with Ferrell here because I'm giving Aidan homework, something to think about going forward here. So we'll let you mull on that. Aidan, and I want to bring in our next guest because he is drafting from the 7 spot tonight, which means he is eligible for that 7 Bananas promo. If he hits the 7 spot in his next Big Gorilla draft, he's going to get a free FFPC Best Ball team, courtesy of the Fantasy Football Players Championship. And if he keeps getting that 7 spot, God knows what he's going to get. Maybe it ends in a jungle safari for $4,000 or $50,000. Please welcome in Uncle Bacon, ladies and gentlemen, drafting from the 7 spot, a.k.a. Maddie. Here's Uncle Bacon. Good evening, sir.
Hey, good evening. How's it going, guys?
It's going good. How are you liking your team? This is a true rainbow start that you had tonight.
It is. It's
yellow.
probably like my first rainbow start ever. I wanted Bowers really bad. I'm glad I got him at the 7. I'm in 2 Big Gorillas right now where I got Bowers at 2 and 3, and I hated that because it's way too early, but I wanted him because of the tight end premium. So getting him here at the 7 is real good because now I can build a different team because when I got him on the 2 and 3, it's like I'm building the same team, you know? So it feels good to get this team. And Drake London's like my ride or die round 2. So I like that I got him. Marion Hampton, he's like a hero RB in round 3. Josh Allen, elite QB, can't beat that.
As the 4th quarterback off the board, too.
Right. Travis Hunter. I mean, I think Travis Hunter, dude, I'm real slappy on him this year. He's like my most exposure out of anybody. And I just think he's going to kill it. So I'm so happy I got him right here.
So that was a question that we got on YouTube, Uncle Bacon. We had Bravado asking why you wanted to go with Travis Hunter over Calvin Ridley. He also seconded that with Travis Hunter over George Pickens. You could add any one of the 3. You already mentioned that Hunter is your top, that you have him owned everywhere right now. So clearly you like him over these guys. Can you tell us a little bit about why Hunter is still going to explode despite him being a rookie, despite him playing defense, and despite him being on the same field as Brian Thomas Jr. as well?
I'm just, like I said, I'm slappy about it. I just believe that he's going to be, I think that Pickens is a guy that has an attitude. I don't know if he's going to be as good as they say he's going to be. He's on a new team. Dak's always injured. I just don't believe in Dak. I don't think Dak's going to last 17 weeks. So let's see what happens with that. So I just don't believe in that. And then what was that? Ridley, what is he, 30 years old? He's got a new quarterback. He's got Cam Ward. Cam Ward might be good. I just think with Travis Hunter, he's just a stud, dude. You can't pass up on that guy over those two guys.
Maddie, you are on the clock here right now in the 6th round. The one good thing about, well, there's multiple good things about your team, but you can go anywhere, man. You got the balance here. You could double up on tight end. You could go with a running back. You could add to a receiver. I don't think you'll go quarterback here, but I don't know. Anything's possible. What are you thinking here for the 606?
Well, dude, all of my teams, I'm always light on running back. Always. I'm always like, I got like one hero and that's it. So I think I'm going to go with DeAndre Swift here. But I got to get lucky and hope that who knows what's going to happen with him on this team. So that's kind of scary, but I'm picking him, dude.
So DeAndre Swift is the pick for Uncle Bacon here. Hampton and Swift now in the backfield. And I think that's an interesting pick, Maddie, because you have to take your chances. You have to make your bets on certain players, not only to win your league, but to try to win this $1 million grand prize. You got to hit on some big players. And if you hit on Swift, this could be a huge deal.
It's scary though, dude, because I know people talk about how Ben Johnson had him on the Lions and it wasn't him that got rid of him, but we'll see, man. They drafted him a young guy. I don't know how good he's going to be. He could break out in preseason. So Swift is one of those picks where it's like, man, I look at that. That's like my least favorite pick by far. Obviously it's my last pick I picked.
I love the Swift pick.
You do?
Well, if it's your least favorite pick, then what upside do you see there that you're like, okay, I got to take him at this
because
spot?
I got to take the risk. Like, what if he's like a baby Jahmyr Gibbs to with Ben Johnson over there? I'll take that because over all the other running backs that were available, I'm just really not, man. Running backs, I'm just not into them. But I'm always feeling that. I always think running backs are going to get injured. You just never know, dude. I don't know. I always think
keep drafting them then. Okay, you better keep drafting them. With the attitude you have, you're going to need more, sir.
I know. That's true.
But this is a perfect spot for me to turn it over. As musical duties call tonight, I must hit the road. But I'm leaving it in great hands.
Well, it's good to meet you.
It was pleasure's all mine, sir. You're a legend in this league. And I tell you what, you're on your way towards a championship. And I wouldn't leave here if I couldn't leave it in the hands of such a fantastic young man as the Liquorie profile over here. And I will be saying so long to my dear friend Bob.
All right, man.
I'm going to take this
with
me.
Please. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice.
I wish everybody a great evening, and we'll see you next Friday.
All right. That's Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you know where you're going, right? You know your way out? Okay. All right. Perfect. Ferrell knows where he's going, and we will see him again soon. First time ever, Ferrell and I have done a video show together, which is always fun. Anytime we can make that
Uncle
happen.
Bacon, are you an Angels fan?
I am, yeah. I was. Sorry.
Prayers, brother. Prayers.
No, I was, dude. I grew up in Southern California, so I'm a Dodger Angel fan. I went to Dodgers games as a kid, Angel games, but more Dodgers than Angels. But then I went to a lot of Angels games when they had Mike Scioscia as the manager, and then they got Mike Trout. Dude, they never even won a playoff game, and their owner Artie Moreno, he just doesn't care about winning, bro. He cares about making money, and that's all good and getting butts in seats. But the Dodgers are all about winning, so it's all about the Dodgers right now.
Maddie, let me ask you this. If Travis Hunter is your most owned player, who do you think is your second most owned player so far this season?
By far, Marion Hampton, by far. And dude, I've been drafting since February. So it's like I've been drafting. I got like a couple 100 and something best balls on DraftKings going. I'm doing underdog in August, and I got like 34 redraft teams. I started in February, and I'm all about Hunter. I'm all about Hampton. And then the draft capital only helps more, dude. The second they get,
you're still drafting Hampton as his ADP has been moving up because he was going at the 5th round in March, April.
Right. But see, I wasn't getting him that much then. I only had him a few times, so now I'm like, I don't care, dude. Like right now, I got him round 3. I don't care. I'm good. I think he's gonna crush.
He'll be in round 2 before we know it. Yeah.
Uncle Bacon, do you find yourself building more because in the FFPC, obviously, you only have to start 2 running backs. You only have to start 2 receivers. Do you find yourself building more running back heavy teams or wide receiver heavy teams in the Big Gorilla?
Wide receiver by far.
Because
and I grabbed like 3 to 4 tight ends because of the tight end premium. So but yeah, when it comes to the running backs, it's like, yeah, I don't know, dude. I've always been like that. I've been drafting for over a decade, and I've just something about the running backs. They're always getting injured. You just never know,
The pick is coming up. You are in the hole right now again, and now you're on deck. So, Maddie, I think the other thing to talk about here, and I brought this up in the 6th round, You have 2 running backs, you have 2 receivers, you have a tight end, you have a quarterback. Like, this is another pick where, and this is what I always like to do, especially when I'm in the middle, have flexibility. What does Bruce Lee say? Be water, right? So you are water right now, and that water allows you to scoop up the value where you see it. You just saw Frank Imbornoni double up on tight ends here. I don't know if that affects your thinking at all.
It actually, it doesn't affect my thinking, but that's what I was thinking. Here it goes, dude. Here's my pick, and I'll tell you why. Boom.
Mark Andrews.
Because the bye week works with Bowers, and then with Isaiah Likely in his foot. I know they're like, oh, it's 4 to 6 weeks, blah blah, whatever, dude. Mark Andrews is going to get target city, so I'm good with that.
We have now seen both Imbornoni and Uncle Bacon double up at tight end. How does that affect the rest of the draft? You'll have to keep watching to find out, as we're only a third of the way through. Can we follow you on X at Uncle Bacon FF, Maddie?
Yes, you can. I just opened my social media, so I just started it. So there's nothing there now, but I'm going to post all my exposures, everything I do, everything I win and miss and lose and everything. Like, I'm going to post all that once I'm right before the season. I'm going to post all my exposures and stuff. So
all right. Well, it was a pleasure.
I'm also in the next. I signed up to the Big Gorilla Draft on August 13th, so I'll probably see you there too.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely.
Yeah. There we go.
Uncle Bacon, ladies and gentlemen, making his debut on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour tonight. Thanks so much, dude. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the draft. Enjoy the rest of the drafting season, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Maddie, hopping aboard. Uncle Bacon, good stuff from him tonight as we are powering through the 7th round here. The tight end round, Aidan. Hawkinson, Engram, Njoku, and Andrews all going off the board here, too. And I always like to point this out. It used to be back in the day that once one team doubled up on tight end, I think we saw some fireworks. I don't think it's been that anymore, but once we see a second team double up, and the fact that we're seeing 2 tight ends here by 2 different teams already in the 7th round, I think things could get pretty interesting on the ends here for, teams 1 through 3, teams 10 through 12 to see what they do and how they react to this.
Yeah, I mean, this draft is off the rails. I feel like I'm always saying that kind of every stream I do, but I think it's maybe more of a product of the uniqueness that we see when we do these streams, and you kind of see the unexpected and you kind of focus on that. But this one Team 10, I'm intrigued to see what they do, because I put it in the chat. I mean, they are pushing guys ADP up, starting with Kamara, I think was middle 4th, Burrow a round early, Diggs almost 2 rounds. Myers was around early. I know this is not answering your question in the slightest, but
that's okay.
They are fascinating to me. Now, Khalil Shakir almost around early. So fascinating draft there. But yeah, Tyler Warren goes. I think teams 1 and 3 have to be panicking a little bit, because especially, that 8 through 9 and Remy there in the 5 hole, because your worry now is, teams 8 and 9 with Kelsey and Laporta, which aren't the most comfortable tight end situations. I would say Laporta coming off a super disappointing year. Travis Kelsey is incredibly old, despite the positive reports, and looked like he kind of lost a step last year. So, I mean, if they're doubling up, you assume Team 12 probably takes one because they're scared of the rush. So teams 1, 3, and 5 have to be kind of shaken a little bit here.
Yeah, Remy's an interesting team because that dude is always just drafted based on what he thinks. And
Remy's a beast, man. Me and Terp are always like, what is he doing? And then he comes and he wins the league, and we look like idiots, right? Like, we had the main event one. We were like, what is going on? And Remy doesn't care, because Remy's going to draft how Remy drafts. And
yeah, he gets his guys.
He hits. So I will say I don't mind the start for him. I like this build compared to his main event one that he did. But this is a strong start. But tight end, I'm sure he's a little worried about.
At this point, I mean, you could make the case that when he took Jerry Jeudy here at the 705, you could make the case that he considered tight end, and maybe he didn't like Andrews, or he didn't like Njoku, or Tyler Warren being a rookie, or Tucker Kraft, who also went in the 7th round. Tucker Kraft is really climbing too.
What do you make of the reports that Kraft and LaFleur had a little tit for tat in the media with his fumbling issues? Very little. I don't put too much stock into that. No, but I should say that, like, the people who cover the team up here, I don't think anybody's making a big deal out of it. So I'm not either. What I would make a big deal about Tucker Kraft
is this Packers offense with all these different receivers and the fact that they added 2 more in the draft. And Christian Watson, the reports on him have been really good, where he's not only running, but he's cutting and he's changing directions.
Don't let Turp hear that. Don't let Turp hear some
Turp's
Christian
already,
Watson buzz.
Turp is already well aware. He's already been posting it on X at Dave Turp. He's very excited about it. I'm tempering my expectations.
Concerningly excited.
The thing with Kraft is, like, yeah, he doesn't leave the field, and he's out there a ton. And I know Luke Musgrave is destined to get hurt again, because that's what he does. But right now, Musgrave's tearing it up in training camp. He's catching everything thrown to him. So I don't know, man. Like Kraft, to me, I'm fine with him in best ball, but in a managed league like this, I think it could get dicey from week to week.
I will just say real quick, Matthew Golden, sake on Packers, and if you have to go to a guest, I'll end up. I'll just saying if we.
No, go ahead.
I want to get back to perfect. I'll just say Matthew Golden. They invested the draft capital.
And he just went, by the way, at the 802 tonight.
Yeah. And I've been waiting for his ADP to rise. It hasn't. It's been remaining pretty steady. I think people are going to get value because I think Matthew Golden is what people wanted Christian Watson to be in more. So I'm a big fan of that pick at the 802.
Yeah, and Golden, the reports on him have been excellent so far today, or so far in training camp as well. I might be eating some crow on that one because I mean it's early yet. I could still be right, but I just the same critique I have with Tucker Kraft I have about Matthew Golden. I think week to week trying to figure out if this is a Golden week or if this is a Kraft week, it's just going to be maddening. It's not maddening. Bringing in our next guest to ask his input from the 4 spot tonight. He is managing the G-Men, and he is joining us right now on the show. Please welcome aboard Mr. Igor Gorbenko. Igor, welcome in.
Hey, guys. Just give me – it's not my pick yet. How are you? How's everybody doing?
We're doing excellent. You are on deck right now. You are 7 picks in. Again, a team that you start off heavy on the running back, and then you've been splashing in some receivers with McLaurin and Devonta Smith. You get Jalen Hurts and Evan Engram. Obviously, that Eagle stack. Where are you going now with this 809 pick, Igor?
I have no idea. I'm thinking right now. Just give me a second. I got sniped with just a few picks away. So give me 1 second.
Okay, you listen. You make the pick. I'm going to tell everybody about your team here. So the G-Men. This is Igor's squad from the 4 hole. He started off with Gibbs, Irving, and then Kyron Williams. So a lot of volume, a lot of touches, a lot of upside in that backfield. He added Terry McLaurin in the 4th, maybe depressed value because of the holdout situation, contract situation. And then he gets this Eagle stack here in back-to-back picks. Jalen Hurts at the 504. And then Devonta Smith at the 609 here. And then, sort of before all these tight ends went off the board in the 7th round with Njoku, Andrews, Warren, and Kraft, Igor ends up getting Evan Engram as the 7th tight end off the board. And you have decided to add to your running back room here, Igor. Tell us a little bit about your pick at the 809.
So this is not my favorite pick. I didn't like Joe Mixon this year because, so it's a big drop off at the end of the season. So he's getting older a bit. But in round 8, a lot of my players was looking for either Ricky Pearsall, America, and Buka, so these players pretty much were gone. So I was hoping for one of them to drop to me. And I did not. I picked Joe Mixon. Like I said, not my favorite pick, but just because I didn't like anybody else at that spot, pretty much.
What do you think? You think he's ready for week 1? Is it a coin flip right now? You're not sure?
I'm picking him in round 8. I think he's probably going to be ready by week 3, 4. Just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I have a lot of running back depth, so I don't mind keeping him on the bench for a little bit. And I did not plan to start with the running backs back to back. I thought Gibbs was going to fall to number 3, so I'll get CeeDee Lamb. I was fading Jefferson a little bit just because of the hammy. They like to, draft injured players. But it just, the board just was falling to me. I got Bucky and I got Karen Williams. And I was thinking between DK Metcalf and McLaurin. So it was made easier for me by team 5. So, it just sometimes it just falls the way it is. You just have to go with the flow.
Did you not think you were going to get Bucky Irving in the 2nd, Igor?
I was getting a little nervous, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it's going to be taken 6 or 5, team 6 or 5, but I like him this year. I picked him also in the other league. I'm betting big on him. I think he's gonna, I think he's gonna finish top 5.
You are on the clock once again, Igor. Imbornoni ends up taking George Kittle in the second. Jonathan Taylor goes to Remy LeBeau at the 208, and then Bucky Irving does indeed fall to the G-Men. Igor Gorbenko's team here. He gets Irving here. Now you got 4 running backs on this squad: Gibbs, Irving, Kyron Williams, Mixon. You still have the 2 receivers in McLaurin and Smith. Obviously, you are set at the 1Z positions, at least your top choices at both of those with Hurts and Engram. Take us through the thought process here. Who's the pick going to be at the 904, Igor?
I'm taking between another running back and wide receiver, just trying to figure it out who I want more.
The first 3 picks of the 9th round ended up being Michael Pittman to Craig Mastro. The Abusement Park, that is Paul Teixeira's team. He goes with Jaden Murray. Kyler Murray ends up going, Jaden Reed to Paul Teixeira, and then Matthew Book takes Kyler Murray. And you take one of my favorite players this year, a guy I'm really starting to grow on, or he's starting to grow on me, from New York, aptly joining the G-Men team in this league. It is Cam Skattebo, Igor. What do you like about Skattebo?
I think with the Tracy fumbling issues, and to me, I looked at Skattebo. I think he's more well-rounded running back, and I think by the second half of the year, he should be the starter.
I think that, and maybe I'm being a little aggressive in this, Aidan. I think that Skattebo might be the starter from the get-go.
That would be a nice bonus. That's for sure. And what I like about FFPC, it gives us a lot of flexibility. Like you see, I have like 5 running backs. It doesn't really matter because I can start 4 of them in any given week, and not to worry about the other positions. So I'm trying to go based on my list with the best player available. So I don't know how many receivers I'm going to get at the end. Hopefully, a few at least. But I'm a little, I don't want to say I'm nervous, but I'm a little concerned. But let's see how it's going to turn out with the receivers wise.
What do you think? I mean, like, is it just because we're almost halfway through? Are you just going to be pounding receivers through the second half of the draft? You probably have some work to do at tight end. I don't know how you feel about drafting a backup quarterback with Jalen Hurts, but then with these 5 running backs, I mean, some people, Igor, would say like you're good and you wouldn't even need to take a 6th one at all. I would say you probably still need a 6th one, but you think this mix over your next 11 picks is going to be dominated by wide receiver?
Honestly, no clue. I'm going to continue going what I'm doing. Right. Best player available. If all the wide receivers I want taken, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go tight end or, a wide receiver. And quarterback, I'm probably going to be fading unless I'm going to get the very good value on a quarterback. So I feel like we have a lot of wide receivers. Even you can pick some guys up after round 16 at this point. There is so many wide receivers out there. And a lot of this, I know there is very popular, this notion you take hero or B or 0 running backs. Yeah, I remember we had the year where everybody got injured. But I think the workhorse running backs, help win the league. I've been doing FFPC for at least 10 years now. I think this is the first time I'm talking to you guys. It's nice meeting you, by the way. So I'm excited about, and I love this league because I looked at the owners. It was like everybody has like a star over there. So this is going to be very, very competitive league. And I'm looking at the picks. I'd say very unorthodox. Everybody's going about it. Some players, like somebody mentioned, go up the board a lot. Some players drop. So it's very interesting because every year I look at the draft and I was like, well, I look at round 4, round 5, and there was no players that actually popped at that. But round 6 and 7, everybody was going crazy. So I guess when somebody reaches, I'm not surprised anymore because there could be better players than the previous rounds at this point.
It's interesting, and for a guy, I mean, listen, like been playing with that FFPC 10 plus years. Number one, thank you for the support, Dave Gerzak, FFPC co-founder, giving you a shout out. Very cool that you popped in. That we appreciate you for sure. Listen, I the last question I want to leave you with here. Dylan Sampson, there's been some Cleveland Browns chat in the YouTube chat right now. Dylan Sampson goes at the 906. Igor, how have you been handling the Browns running back situation with this kind of nebulous, like Quinshon Judkins isn't signed, he's got this off-field stuff? How do you treat those Browns running backs? And you throw Jerome Ford in this conversation as well.
I'm a little biased because I did 2 drafts already, one before the draft. and the other one about a month ago. I have Dylan Sampson on both of my team. I really like him this year, even before Judkins was suspended. So because I always felt he could be, I know he didn't catch a lot of passes, but I think he could be, he could be a third down guy.
Mhm.
He's very fast and shifty, and now his value is definitely going up. So I don't know what's going to happen to Judkins. He might have a value. Hopefully, it's going to be all resolved. I hope he's not going to miss the season. Hopefully, let's see what's going to happen. I don't want to speculate on that. But I was very high on Dylan Sampson even before he was drafted by Browns, because I thought he and Jenkins like neck and neck. So I don't see the difference around 2 and around 4 in the draft per se, but I think they're very similar talent.
Speaking of similar talent, Igor Gorbenko, a similar talent to maybe $1 million winner this year, $1 million winner in previous years for sure. Igor, thank you so much for popping aboard tonight. We really appreciate your support of the FFPC over the last decade. Enjoy the remainder of this draft tonight. Enjoy the rest of the drafting season. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. It was very nice meeting everybody.
Good meeting you. Absolutely. Thank you, Igor. Igor Gorbenko, ladies and gentlemen. He's running the G-Men franchise from the 4 spot tonight. And Aidan running it into a pretty good spot. I mean, I think that people would say that, well, his receivers are a little bit light, but that receiver room can look pretty good, pretty quick. We're only in round. I mean, he's only made 9 picks. And certainly I know in best ball, it's maybe easier to improve your receiver room because you don't have to decide when you're starting these guys. But even in this, there's some good value here in the mid rounds. I know a lot of people like to draft running back in these rounds. And obviously you look at the board right now, you're seeing a ton of green from rounds 8 through 10. There's some good receiver values here available for G-Men that he can really take this team to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. And when you've been drafting on FFPC for a decade, I trust that you're going to have the ability to react on the fly and build out that receiver room. I mean, I can't not fault anyone, I should say, for going the best player available strategy. I think it's sound. I think Mixon's efficiency concerns, the possible Woody Marks, Nick Chubb taking carries, I think that's kind of alleviated when you're getting him in round 8. So I like that pick. Obviously, you seem high on Scattaboo. I saw today that he's missed practice the last couple of days. He walked off the practice field and looked a little frustrated. So that's just something I did want to mention for those who didn't see that, just as something to monitor. You always hope it's nothing serious, but you never know. I just feel like it's just a constant stream of injury news at the start of August. It's always an unfortunate time, but it's just constant worry for these guys who leave the practice field.
So I'm going to appease my boss here in Dave Gerzak, the Dizzle, because he's switched to the caps lock for his latest post on YouTube here. Can someone talk about James Cook at 506? For the love of God. Well, for the love of God is we're going to bring it to you right now. 312 is, according to fantasymojo.com, where he goes in the Big Gorilla Tournament over the last 3 days. Anytime we are citing ADP on this show, we always give credit to Fantasy Mojo. Darren Armani, who put together the Pros versus Joes challenge for the umpteenth year in a row. If you are playing in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a subscription to fantasymojo.com. It's infinitely helpful for you. James Cook, the latest he has gone, Aidan, the latest he's gone over the last 3 days in a Big Gorilla was the 404. What happened in this draft tonight? Did something happen in practice today that James Cook slipped basically a full round and a half to the 506 tonight? Pretty crazy. And certainly Frankie Bornoni is maniacally wringing his hands together and cackling to get James Cook there.
I mean, bulky. This draft has Hunter Henry in the 8th round. The earliest Hunter Henry's gone was the 11th round. He's 13th round on average. I'm not questioning anything. You're also asking someone who's not a James Cook fan. I don't even know if he's the best running back on that roster. That's me being biased as a Kentucky fan, but also just I'm not a James Cook believer. As I kind of said earlier, I believe a strong touchdown regression is coming. This is a guy who didn't score touchdowns, was known for not scoring touchdowns. All of a sudden, he jumps up to 18 total last year. That's coming back down. You have the whole Holden situation. We'll see. Obviously, he's more than likely going to play, but is missed time in camp. We know that is not conducive to fast starts. So I'm not a believer in Cook. I'm surprised his ADP hasn't fallen further. I will say it's surprising, but when you kind of look at that round, that 4th round, when he's kind of normally been going, you're looking at it was essentially just all receivers and quarterbacks. Obviously, a little surprising to see James Conner ahead of him. Team one, obviously, like the upside of RJ Harvey and Travion Henderson. Rookies are always way more sexy to draft than James Cook. But it was just a quarterback and receiver run that was the byproduct of James Cook's fall, not really people passing on it too much. So, like, roughly there was 3 running backs taken over him. It was just the receivers got pushed up.
So James Cook, this is going to blow you away. James Cook received, now this is, Aidan, he had a baller year last year, right? James Cook. And obviously that a lot of that was touchdown influenced. He had under 50% of offensive snaps in his games played. Think about that for a second. He was on the field less than he was off the field last year, despite putting up a baller season. You still got Ray Davis. You still got Ty Johnson as well. And Ty Johnson on third down last year had 149 snaps. James Cook, 27. This is a massive regression to the mean. And I'll say this. I understand the arguments. Understand the arguments in total for James Cook and why he fell tonight. I don't know why he's falling a full round and a half. Like, is this Big Gorilla setting the new ADP with James Cook? I mean, this is wild.
I think you have to take it in a vacuum, though, because he's been going as RB16. He falls to RB20. I think his fall was more of a factor of people getting caught up at the start with the quarterbacks. And then it was just people were hammering receivers. So I don't know how much of the reflection is on Cook. I mean, clearly there is to a degree when you have Henderson, Harvey, Connor going before him. But I think you have to kind of look at it within the draft itself and kind of see what was going on. But I mean, as Dave pointed out in the chat, even not as a big James Cook fan, I mean, you're doing that every time there at the 506, because you have now a very different team than most, because you're getting almost a round of full value on James Cook.
You know what's funny too is, and Frank Imbornoni, who took him at the 506, I wonder if he considered him at the 407 where he took Rashee Rice, because he did not have a running back on his squad yet. And then when Cook came back to him at the 506, it's like, that's when you go on the internet, you Google James Cook and make sure he's number one, still alive, number 2, still healthy, and then you make the pick. So yeah, wild stuff there tonight for James Cook, falling all the way to the 506 tonight. We had Paul Teixeira on earlier, and I can't remember who said it in the chat, Aidan. But there were some people talking positively about his team, liking his build. Obviously, he went hero RB here with Bijan Robinson at the 102. Pounded it with McConkey, Wilson. He made that pick live on the air, Worthy, and then Whiskey Bill, Jamison Williams here in the 5th round. And then he's added. I mean, he's just kind of jumping around here. He's added to the running back room. He brought another receiver in tow with Jaden Reed at the 902. Hawkinson is his tight end in the 7th round, which I think is good value. I'd have to mojo that up to make sure I'm speaking correctly on that. And then Justin Fields as his number 1 quarterback here in the 11th, as we have now begun the second half of the draft. This is a good squad. What do you make of this build here for Paul Teixeira drafting from the 2-hole?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of my favorite drafts in this league so far. Obviously, we kind of talked about Bijan and Ladd is a great start. You have Wilson stacked with Fields, and on top of that, I think Fields as a standalone value is great because of that rushing floor. I mean, he's just got to stay healthy. But we've seen, even though he is not even close to an average NFL passer from a fantasy player, he's arguably elite because he rushes the ball so much. You know, David Montgomery, if you're going to go hero running back, is a great second running back to have. Not only that, his receivers. Obviously, I mentioned Ladd and Wilson, but Worthy and J-Mo are both huge upside plays. Could burn you some weeks, but their huge weeks could single-handedly win you matchups. Dobbins, I actually really do like, as much as I like Harvey. If Dobbins is not going to stay healthy, unfortunately, that's just his MO. But for the weeks he does, shocked me looking great last year. And Sean Payton, I think, can utilize multiple running backs, and especially as Harvey acclimates to the NFL, who knows where his blocking is going to be. I think Dobbins is a good value. Don't love Javonte Williams. Don't love anything in that Cowboys running back room, but you could do worse than possibly having an RB1 on what has notoriously been a good rushing team. And honestly, I'm intrigued to hear what your thoughts are on Jaden Reed. I hyped up Matthew Golden. We thought the Reed breakout was coming after week 1 last year, but then how much of his struggles and inconsistencies in your mind was that high ankle sprain, which we know saps players, and maybe are we due for a post-type sleeper year? or is this a guy who's just going to be inconsistent and maybe not achieve the hype that he was bestowed last year?
Yeah, a few things on Jaden Reed. Number one, wasn't it a shoulder injury late last season? I thought it was a shoulder rather than
no. He had a high ankle,
okay,
or early week 3, week 2, one of those two that kind of hampered him.
Okay, so then he got hurt later on in the season, and I don't think he missed any games. He played through it, and that was a shoulder injury. And the reason I bring this up is because if you look at the snaps and his touches after that shoulder injury, I don't know what happened. It was like week 12, week 13, something like that. Like Matt LaFleur just never used him at that point. Just never. He didn't even give him a chance to run the ball with them. They weren't throwing to him. They weren't doing anything with Jaden Reed. Meanwhile, Wicks is out there a ton, and Dobbs and Watson and everything. So I am of the belief that the shoulder injury for Reed last year just killed him. And I know he said he didn't have surgery on it, but it took him like a month or two to fully recover from that shoulder injury. So number one, I think that was huge. Number two, Drew Rosenhaus, it was his new agent this offseason, fired his current agent, hired Drew Rosenhaus. And then after the Packers end up drafting Matthew Golden and Savion Williams, Drew Rosenhaus meets with Brian Gutekunst, the GM of the Packers. And apparently this was more of a meeting. The way it was played off in the press was that, Rosenhaus is demanding an explanation for his client. Why would you do this to my client? Jaden Reed is your number one receiver. And Jaden Reed explained later that this was more of just like, hey, I'm Jaden's new agent. Just want to get to, know you, talk about Jaden Reed a little bit better. This was not a thing on like the Packers, not believing in Reed. And then the last thing I'll mention on this, Brian Gutekunst said, and you can Google this. I've tried to find the exact quote, but reputable people have said this. Gutekunst said that the draft picks of Golden and Savion Williams do not affect Jaden Reed's status as the number one receiver on this team. So long story short, I know I say I don't draft Packers receivers and tight ends because it could be a week-to-week thing for all of them. If there's one Packers receiver I've been drafting this year, Packers pass catcher, hasn't been Tucker Kraft, it hasn't been Matthew Golden, it hasn't been Dobbs, it's been Jaden Reed. And I wouldn't say I've been drafting him a ton, but I'm a believer in Reed as in my opinion, if there's any trustworthy, consistent receiver on this team this year for Green Bay, it's not any of those other guys. For me, Aidan, it's Jaden Reed.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind the pick, especially in the 9th round, because this is a guy I'm of the belief that with that high ankle, we've seen what that does to players, especially players who rely on speed, and it seemed like he was beat up last year, which if you want to say that's a concern, understandable. With the way they use him as size, but I think we've seen what he can do. I mean, your 5th receiver as well. I mean, it's just another addition to what's been a really good build. As I said, there's only maybe one pick where I'm like, I think Dave also pointed out in the chat. Dave has been loving this drunk draft and talk about who's dropping because the value is insane. And Hawkinson's another one. As I said, Javonte Williams is maybe the only one I'm like, I don't know, if I would have done that, but you're in the 10th round and the running back groups are what they are. So really good draft from team 2.
So Dave wanted to point this out too. Jaden Reed's snap percentage last year was 63%, which obviously, as Pete Campbell would tell us, not great, Bob. But I do want to look this up just to make sure I'm explaining this properly. So this dude did not get weeks 1 through 9, he had at least 5 catches. He had at least 4 catches, which I know is not great, but he had at least 4 catches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in 9 weeks. Right after that, he had 1 game. This is after the shoulder injury. He had 1 game where he had 5 catches. So I'm still of the belief that, his snap share is down, and I'm certainly not advocating for everybody to take Jaden Reed ahead of ADP. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be on the field a ton more than he was last year. You're drafting him at your own risk. But I will say that I think this shoulder injury, which again took months to recover from, really affected not only him being on the field, but LaFleur kind of protecting him and making sure that he's able to play in the postseason as well. And I think the numbers back that up, that this was just a guy that for whatever reason, we didn't know why they were going away from him. They never gave him a chance. And that's the one guy, if I trust anybody, and trust is a strong word, as Matthew Berry would say. But if there's one guy I trust, it's Reed. And where did he go tonight? We were just talking about this 9th round.
902,
right?
yeah.
902, yeah. I think that's fine. Okay, moving on. I don't know how this turned into the Jaden Reed show, but
Yeah.
my apologies on that. Let's talk about some former Kentucky Wildcats. Give us the latest on Wandale Robinson or something, Aidan, that we can shift it to more of your expertise.
I
here
can if you
I'm
really
sure
want.
you
I don't
could.
think the people want that.
We will lose hundreds and thousands of viewers
Yes.
tonight if we do that. Let's
Want
go
a Will
into
Levis update, Balky?
yeah, exactly. Let's get the latest on Will Levis. He's rubbing mayonnaise on his shoulder right now. Isaiah Likely goes at the 12:01 tonight to CT ESPN. That's Brady Stewart's squad. We don't know. This is another player that we don't know when he's going to play again. It could be week 1. It might be before week 1. It might be after week 1. And what's kind of muddying the waters a little bit with Likely is his head coach said earlier this offseason, which Grant, I think Ferrell brought this up too. Head coaches are always going to talk up their players, but somebody said, "Oh, what are your expectations for Isaiah Likely this year?" And he said, "Well, for him to be an All-Pro." And I'm like, "What? How is he going to be an All-Pro behind Mark Andrews? How is he going to be an All-Pro with Zay Flowers catching passes in front of him? How is he going to be an All-Pro not being an option that's looked at ahead of Rashad Bateman, who they just paid?" So that kind of caught me off guard. Likely, God, where the hell is Scott Hoyt tonight? He's the Isaiah Likely president of the fan club here. And he goes in the 12th round. Is this the right spot in a tight end premium league to be drafting Isaiah Likely? Joe Del Zanero has always said there's no such thing as a bad pick after the 10th round. So I guess if you want to pair him with Tucker Kraft, I would still look at another tight end, Brady, on this squad if I was drafting it. But Likely, is that the right spot for him to go, given that we just don't know what's going on with that leg injury right now?
Yeah, you could even take him a little earlier, and I wouldn't knock it at all. Here's why. I think Mark Andrews, regardless of how serious the rumors were, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there was rumors, right, that Mark Andrews was possibly on the trade block, cap purposes. Mark Andrews obviously struggled last year. He's getting older. They love Likely. We saw what Likely can do week 1. Obviously, that led to some crazy draft boards in Vegas, as you and me saw. But it did feel as up until this injury, the Likely and Andrews ADP was growing closer and closer. And there was maybe even a point where it would switch up as, Andrews older, memories of the drop in the playoffs come. And now this injury has kind of shifted it back. But I think you're thinking long-term here in round 12 and come maybe even mid-season when he's healthy. I think it's more than possible that Isaiah Likely is the tight end to own in Baltimore over Mark Andrews. So I think that's a great value in round 12. I think you can't be scared off with the injury because you're in these later rounds now. You already have your tight end 1 in Tucker Kraft. I agree with you. They should probably find another one just for those early weeks. But this is absolutely where you should be taking Isaiah Likely, maybe even a little earlier, because you could be getting a top 5 tight end come year's end and the guy who's going in the first 4 rounds next season.
The drunkest part of this draft is James Cook, right? Like that's the overserved.
I'm going to have a hot take. I think it's Hunter Henry.
Okay, all right. So that was my next question. Is if that was the drunkest part, what's the second drunkest part?
Hunter Henry.
I'd love to, and we'll go on Mojo. We should find this out. Has Hunter Henry ever been drafted before Dallas Goedert in any Big Gorilla draft this year? And I don't know if the answer is yes to that, but Craig Mastro ends up getting both of them on the team. Now, in Mastro's defense, is there something to be said about Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, who don't necessarily like playing rookies a whole lot, at least historically, and 2 of their better offensive weapons this year are rookies in Kyle Williams and Travion Henderson. You have Stephon Diggs, who I know has been looking very good, but he's still on the wrong side of 30, coming off a very serious knee injury. Is there something to be said for Hunter Henry being the top target on an ascendant offense in a tight end premium format, which, by the way, Hunter Henry was pretty good last year?
For the record, I don't actually mind Hunter Henry as a player at all. But, when his ADP is in the 13th round, taking him at the end of the 8th is where the issue lies for me. Obviously, there was a huge tight end run. We had kind of discussed that. And how team 1 and 3 would react back in round 8, and they both took tight ends in that round. I'm almost of the belief at that point you just pivot and kind of completely punt on tight end and just take 3 flyers late. But like you could have done that with Hunter Henry, assumably, and even in round 10. Henry's tough because he did have a good year last year. I don't mind. It's just relative to the value of the pick. That's an 8th round selection on a guy who you probably got in at least 2 or 3 rounds later. Dallas Goedert's really tough for me to manage because of how many mouths there are to feed in Philadelphia between Saquon, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown. And there's going to be games, right, where they're just running the ball and Goddard's not, involved in the passing game that much because of limited pass shares, and those shares are going to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. 10th round, again, you can't knock it too much, especially as what is that, tight end 17. But just overall as a player, he's tough because he's, the fourth option at best on that team, and that's just a tough pill to swallow, especially when there's going to be games where they're not throwing the ball that much.
If Ferrell was still here, he would be agreeing with you. He is not a Dallas Goedert fan this year, Aidan, for sure. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, Bill Merritt, as the kids call him, goes at the 1302 to Paul Teixeira tonight. This guy has been ascendant. This guy is going up draft boards, and there's a lot of things working for him. Number one, he's been playing well. The reports out of camp has been fairly good. And I think that, the bar to jump over to become a successful integral part of that Commander's backfield, it's not like he has to jump over Zach Charbonnet and Ken Walker, right? He doesn't have to jump over Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. He's got to jump over Brian Robinson, and he's got to jump over Austin Eckler. Krosky Merritt, I think this guy continues to rise up. You know he's going to get run in preseason, and if he shows up there, even if he's going against third and fourth string defenders, he's still going to rise. Where do you stand on Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt this year? Because this is a guy I've been doing some FOMO picks with him. Like, I feel like I should be getting him more. I don't want to miss out on a player like this.
Yeah, so seeing drafts like this always make me feel better because this is now the third straight show that I've been on where I'm bringing this up. But me and Jake Vanetti, who's works with us here at FFPC, we represented the company, the Sirius XM Experts Fantasy Draft, Best Ball League, 17 teams. This was 2 weeks ago, and we got JCM in round 18. Horrible running back room, Balky, by the way. We went hero running back with Genti. Justice Hill's our current RB2, so that's where it's at. But JCM in round 18 maybe could patch things up if he emerges. Brian Robinson feels just like a guy who he's not a sexy pick, and he'll get it done, but he's just going to have so many weeks of completely inefficient games where he doesn't get in the end zone. It's just a complete bust. Eckler's going to have his moments too. It just feels kind of like a backfield where every guy's going to have their moments, and it might be a little tough to sort through. But in terms of value, if I'm looking, where'd Brian Robinson go in this draft? He went in round. Geez, am I completely blanking
on? Ninth round, 905.
There we go. Like Brian Robinson, 905, and help me out on Austin Eckler because it's 11:11 at night here on the East Coast.
Austin Eckler was 11:08 tonight, Aidan.
All right, so relative to that, honestly, if I'm looking through it, it probably actually is Eckler at the 11:08, but closely followed by JCM at the 13:02. I'm completely staying away from Brian Robinson. Not at all comparable players by any means, but by the same rationale where every year, Derrick Henry, I think Jamie Cox was talking about every year. I'm like, this is the year he, goes down a cliff. At a much, much, much lesser level, the complete Walmart version of that is Brian Robinson the last couple of years, right? It's always, since his rookie year ended, I'm just like, nah, they're going to go away from him. And they never fully do. They always hint at it, and then they come back to him. But this year I'm making on a Brian Robinson fall off due to those underlying inefficient numbers. And yeah, I'm buying JCM. He's going to continue to rise. I do wonder if there gets to a point though where it becomes a little too much.
Yeah.
It's getting there, even as a JCM guy, and that's largely because of Sean Green, who, and every single one of me in Terps live draft coverages is there in the chat. I want to give him a little shout out, hyping up JCM. It's crazy, since March. But I also go back to one thing. This is real quick. I know I'm rambling a bit, but this year's running back rookie class was so deep. People can get, and FFPC players are well aware. They know this, but to the general public, right, fantasy playing public, they see a 6th-round pick, and that guy's a day 3 pick. A lot of these guys would have been day 2 picks in pretty much any other running back class. They just got pushed down because of just how inordinately deep this class was. So I'm not also looking at some of these guys as, 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick, because I don't think it matters as much as pretty much every other year due to that deep draft class. So yeah, long story short, in on JCM, but I'm wondering at what point that price will be too high. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll know when I see it.
The thing I want to say here about the Dizzle's last post here, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt over Tyler Algier and DJ Giddens seems incorrect. Number one, I basically agree with that sentiment. Krosky Merritt, as far as we know, as far as the reports go right now, he's the number 3 running back. It's tough for me to say, hey, I'm going to draft this guy on Washington, who's the number 3 guy, over Tyler Algier, who's an injury away from being the starting running back in Atlanta, pretty much by himself. Now, Giddens, it's a little bit more nebulous there because the reporting, Jared Smola was just talking about this from Draft Sharks the other day. He's like, everybody's talking about, all the beat reporters are focusing on this Anthony Richardson versus Daniel Jones. Like, how about giving us some knowledge on Khalil Herbert versus DJ Giddens, right? Like, who's running with the 2s there? Like, we don't even know who the backup is. Is it Giddens or is it Herbert? And I'd like to know that too.
I like Giddens to win that. And I think the likelihood of Jonathan Taylor just, again, historically getting hurt and ceding that role for some time comparatively to Bijan is much higher. So I agree with Dave on Giddens over Krosky Merritt. I think you also have to think, though, Tyler Algier is 1 away, but, it's just tough because now you already have Bijan. So that's a really interesting decision. I'm intrigued here because I was working through a thought where I was about to say you go for the upside with JCM and the possibility in that high-powered offense versus banking on a Bijan. But when you already drafted Bijan at 2 in a managed league, Balky, you're in Paul Teixeira's shoes. Are you taking Tyler Algier here to start the 13th round because you're guaranteed to have the Falcons RB1, or is that not a philosophy you abide by?
Yeah, I have changed my philosophy on this. I'd say probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I always like okay, so there was this time with Arian Foster and Ben Tate, right? Where you could Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson was like this too way back in the day where like, yeah, if you want to lock up those guys, that's fine, but that's an expensive backup.
You got to hold on to them. Yeah.
You got to hold on to them, number one, but then that's you're soaking like 7th or 8th round draft capital into a backup. And so I didn't like the idea of having this really dominant player in the 1st round or 2nd round or whatever, but then it comes with the caveat of he kind of costs you 2 picks because then you got to soak another pick into his backup. Now, normally, and this is what I would do if I was Paul Teixeira, I'm trying to win that $1 million, and I don't know if the optimal strategy here is to go Robinson in the 1st, and then Algier's gone now, because Krosky took Krosky Merritt instead. But I think listen, we could quibble about whether Krosky Merritt should have been the pick, but I like grabbing other people's backups, right? Like I want to have my variance increased. I want when in that championship sprint, that 3-week sprint at the end of the year, I want Bijan Robinson healthy, but I also want maybe Corey Krosky Merritt to be a starter at that point. And
I was about to say that if Bijan gets hurt, even if you have Algier, you're
probably not winning
winning at all. So Bijan's going to stay healthy, and which running back maybe is not only the most high-powered offense, but positive training camp reports and might actually, especially come to championship sprint, could be the RB1 for this team. Hypothetically, if I'm looking at this roster, which I did praise, and I do like the JCM pick in that regard, he very easily he could have taken JCM over Ayuk and then taken Algier or vice versa. I don't think the Ayuk pick was necessary with how loaded his receiving core was. Ayuk coming off a bad year, coming off of multiple torn ligaments in the knee. So even if you're thinking, championship sprint, he's my 6th receiver, maybe he'll do something. I think it's very possible that he could get cut at some point during the year because of how much time he's missing. So maybe that's where you could have slotted in Algier. But no, when you draft Bijan Robinson, you're expecting him to stay healthy. You went here a running back. You might as well take a shot on a guy who very well could end up being an exciting rookie RB1 in an exciting Commanders offense.
Yeah, and that's how I view it. Like Krosky Merritt, he's probably not going to come through. But I just don't know if the upside of taking Algier, it somehow keeps your team afloat for $1 million. I think you need stuff going your way, and you gotta, it's like the guy who he prays to God every year for 20 years. He said, "God, please help me win the lottery. God, please help me win the lottery." And finally, after 20 years of not winning it, God responds back to him and says, "Hey, help me out. Buy a ticket." Right? Like you got to be able to have yourself having these opportunities for these players to ascend. Krosky Merritt could be cut before the season starts. We don't know. Like as far as fantasy,
I remember little Aidan watching a certain 6th round running back tear it up in his rookie year in Washington with Alfred Morris. So maybe history repeats itself. You never know.
Yeah, I remember Alfred Morris is another good example too, where he was going he wasn't even being really drafted until like late August, and then he caught fire, and then everybody was drafting him late in Las Vegas.
I mean, different position, but that was Puka 2 years ago, barely being drafted, and then some of these reports, and even come week 1, right? Like the last drafts on that Saturday, Sunday before the season started, it was still really only like 13th, 14th round he rose up to. It's probably in my lifetime, especially since starting work at this company in 2022, the best value pick by far in my time with this company. So I mean,
I hated it because and I knew this was like a unicorn type thing. That Nakua thing was just this is like a once in a 10-year thing, and I hated it, Aidan, because I knew, even though I knew that in my back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to find this year's Nakua. I got to find this year. You know what I mean? Even though I knew there wasn't going to be
it this year. Who's this year's Puka Nakua? No one's going to be Puka Nakua for another like 10 years. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. We have not talked about Adam Hahn's squad from the 8 spot tonight. Adam is normally he's a very active poster. But I'm sure he's very busy with the draft tonight.
He's locked in.
He's locked in. Yeah. So you look at his squad here, a lot of explosive players in the first 3 rounds with Neighbors, Achane, and Smith and Jigba. Get some floor guys with Evans and Kelsey. I like the Hubbard pick here in the 6th round. I think Odunze could pay off in the 7th. Tony Pollard, Austin Eckler, Tyler Algier, Jarquez Hunter. Again, injury away type guys. Hunter is probably 2 injuries away. And then
Hunter is 1 injury away. Hunter and Kyron Williams.
You just hate Blake Corum.
Well, Sean McVay might hate Blake Corum. Not as much.
Okay.
But
then why would they draft him? Wasn't he a 2nd-round pick last year?
He was a 3rd-round pick, and guess what? He barely played, and then he gets hurt. No, they're and Sean McVay's talk about coach speak. He's been hyping up Jarquez Hunter. I really liked it. This team in my head. Here's how this draft went: Malik Neighbors, Devon Achane start, unbelievable. That's a fantastic start. Yeah. Achane, great value. JSN, love it. Mike Evans, Travis Kelsey. Oh, don't love that. Don't love that. You don't
love you don't like Evans or
supporting senior citizens that Alpha's guys. But then we're back with Chuba Odunze. He gets it right back on track for me. A little stack action with Caleb and Odunze, and then Evans and Baker. Tony Pollard, I think people are sleeping on the Titans offense. I'm a big believer in Calvin Ridley, Cam Ward, and Tony Pollard, who had a really good year. I mentioned I like Eckler's value. Ferguson's good value late, just signed the contract. And then Algier and Hunter is kind of what you just said, right? About, drafting other guys' backups. He has that. I'm a big fan of Hunter. I've been not praying on, but I've been thinking that Kyron Williams' downfall has been coming for the past 2 years now, because it's just the underlying numbers are not good. But for fantasy wise, he just stumbles into the end zone constantly, all credit to him. And Sean McVay completely trusts him. So what can you do? But, another guy, Kyron Williams, who hasn't necessarily shown the propensity to play a full season. So at some point you would expect someone else to be getting carries. And I like taking the bet on Hunter.
What do you make of I know you didn't like the Kelsey pick, but what do you make of backing that up with Ferguson in the 10th round, who the Cowboys just paid?
Makes it much better, especially that Cowboys passing attack.
Yeah.
I think Dak is on the downhill of his career, but it's going to improve from last year.
It's an odd numbered year, though. Prescott always crushes an odd numbered year.
Yes, he does. And I'm actually not.
Hashtag analysis.
It was right. A complete news dump late at night because they didn't want to get shit on. But I don't mind the Schottenheimer hire. I think he's bided his time. He has a lot of experience. And it wasn't too long ago that this was a guy who was one of the hottest names. And he has a good relationship with Dak. They have the weapons, and Ferguson, right? This is another guy. I wouldn't necessarily call him a post-type sleeper, but this was a guy 2 years ago was getting drafted pretty highly, and then Dallas, between his injuries, has a disappointing year, but he could very easily get back on track, and be a really good 3rd option in the 10th round. I think that makes you feel better about drafting Travis Kelsey that early, if there is in fact a Travis Kelsey, continuing to have that age decline.
So the Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans stack, does that do anything for you for Adam Hahn?
Yeah, he as I said, he kind of saved it here. Balkman, let me mess around with this if we can,
Sure. Yeah.
Well, let me move us to the side here real quick. There we go. Look at that.
Okay, hold on. Then let me mess around with it and bring it back to.
There we go.
Is that better?
There we go. Okay. Us messing around with this. Yeah, no, I again, stacking is tougher, but in managed at well, thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It's always good when the boss is watching, right? To have some good analysis.
Stop making me look so bad, Aidan. I need you to dial it back here.
But no, I like the Baker and Evans pick, and I like obviously Caleb with Odunze. I'm a big fan of Odunze. Again, it's not the Evans is a guy who continually proves me wrong. I hope, because I actually am a big fan of his, Travis Kelce, that he does kind of have a bounce back year. I just think it's tough, especially also with that Kansas City offense. Kind of the way it's been looking is not like the Kansas City offense of old. The Evans pick is fine. I'm just much more of an upside guy when drafting, so that's more of just personal preference. But this is another really good build. I'm just going to go back to that start. I don't know how many Neighbors A-Chain starts are. A-Chain is usually a guy who goes at that 1-2 turn. To see him kind of fall into the fifth was kind of probably our first sign. That and Puka going at the 106 is probably our first sign of like, all right, this draft is going to be a little bit crazy. And then it's only escalated from there. But that start alone gets a minimum like a B grade, and he's only enhanced it with the rest of his picks.
Yeah, the H-Chan thing is weird because so his ADP is 112 according to Mojo over the last 3 days, and I'm looking at some of these guys that went after him. Like, I feel like that's where they normally go. I guess H-Chan normally goes ahead technically of McBride, St. Brown, Thomas, Collins, Henry. So I guess that knocks him down a little bit, but yeah, I really like the H-Chan pick here. Hey, I wanted to ask you something about, you're a Giants fan, right? Am I remembering that correctly or no?
So I don't have an NFL team. I just don't. Okay. I started playing fantasy football when I was like 9, and I don't know how I never got into, at the time, the Redskins, now the Commanders. I just, I always kind of casualed with them, but I was just always so fixated on my fantasy team. It just kind of, that's always been what it was. So yeah, I don't really have a team, which is, honestly, it makes my Sundays immensely more relaxing that, I don't have an NFL team providing me pain, just just my fantasy teams. I always say I'm always rooting for whoever the Eagles are playing against. That's my NFL team.
Okay, so 2 weeks a year, your NFL team is the Cowboys, which is what I wanted to ask you about. Yes. We talked about their passing game briefly. I wanted to bring up the running game, which I think is far more interesting, if far more unspectacular.
In like a morbid kind of way.
In a morbid kind of way, yeah, exactly. Jaden Blue tonight goes before Javonte Williams. Jaden Blue off the board at the 10:03. Javonte Williams at the 10:11. Reports are that Miles Sanders has been outplaying Javonte Williams, and Jaden Blue is really starting to draw the praise of the coaching staff there. At what point? I mean, so right now, if I'm drafting in redraft leagues, I'm taking Blue over Javonte Williams 100% of the time, which is what happened tonight. What do you make of Jaden Blue potentially? And I don't toss this term around a lot because people say, oh, if you take this guy in round 2 or round 3, he's a league winner. That's not really how it works. But if you get a guy like Jaden Blue in the 10th round and he just goes supernova and he's catching all these passes, and Javonte Williams is dust and Miles Sanders is even dustier, then Jaden Blue could be a league winner here this year. Am I getting too excited about drafting Jaden Blue in the 10th round? Because I don't think I am. I don't think I'm too excited yet.
Yeah, it's Jaden Blue or Phil Maffa for free for me.
Oh, God, Phil Maffa. There's that guy does nothing for me, Aidan. Absolutely nothing.
For free. I'm not, I mean, I don't know.
But when
I'm just saying, if I'm taking a Dallas running back, it's Phil Maffa in round 20 or it's Jaden Blue.
Okay, all right.
I'm just also saying, you're a college football fan as well. You have these memories of these players. Phil Maffa scored 4 touchdowns against me in a bowl game. So that's just always in my head that Phil Maffa just destroyed us.
I guess.
I
mean, it's just he doesn't athletically do anything for me. He's running with the 4s, I think, right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying I'm taking a chance on a rookie over proven bad NFL players and now bad NFL players.
To your point, you can get him super late. The Dizzle saying Phil Maffa equals winner. Maybe my own argument for Jaden Blue, you could apply it to Phil Maffa too. I think it's more likely with Blue.
Oh, Blue is the guy to have, but I'm just saying,
I understand.
Phil Maffa is over those two. Yeah, I mean, the cop-out answer is it's probably going to end up being neither of them. I think it's very possible. Of all teams, the likelihood that the current week 1 starting running back not being on that team as of now is the Cowboys. They trade or trade for someone, as unlikely as that is. But no, I think it's Blue because he has that home run upside, and it could just it's more of a reflection of Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. Are we being serious? Like you're really feeling comfortable, especially like some teams are taking, Williams or Sanders as their RB2, RB3 if they completely punt the position, and you just feel like you're kind of cooked from there. Obviously, in this league, Javonte Williams is an RB4. You could do worse. He didn't do it in Denver. He never reached those expectations, especially after the injury.
Yeah.
And I just the eye test alone is enough for me to dismiss him. This isn't a great Cowboys O-line. It's not the old Cowboys O-line that we're kind of used to where they could just churn out running backs.
They just re-added Lel Collins today, too.
Yes.
So
yeah, and Tyler Guyton is going to be back probably for week 1, but it's just not the news you want to hear. It's just Javonte Williams, there was a moment right last year where I was buying to, Zeke back in the fold in Dallas. And this is a guy who's going to fall into the end zone a lot and maybe be, kind of like the LeGarrette Blount of this year, the Jamal Williams, the Gus Edwards, where he just gets a ton of touchdowns. But, oh, no, he's back in Dallas. Maybe he can refine some of that magic. And it just isn't the case. And now I'm like, yeah, just because it's a Dallas running back, which for seemingly the last decade has yielded great results, I'm going to trust my eye test more and just go with Javonte Williams is not going to be a fantasy winner by any means. And you're way better off taking Jaden Blue.
Yeah, as Joe King points out, he's only 25, and he's got all the ingredients, right, to be a potential league winner this year, except for he's only got one non-surgically repaired knee, which I think is a problem.
And even before that, he never was. I know, obviously, Denver in his time there was not, the Sean Payton Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to judge him. And I guess that is, if I'm playing devil's advocate with myself, is, when you saw him, fully healthy, you can't really even analyze that because despite his kind of struggles, this wasn't a guy ever really playing on a great team. But no, it's just. Both these prices are too high, as crazy as that sounds, right in the 10th round. It's even with Blue, it's just there's too much uncertainty in this room. If I lose a league $1 million, yes, I'm going to be sick. But there's just going to be some ones where I'm comfortable. If they beat me, they beat me. And the Dallas running back room is just going to be one where they beat me. Like the Packers, going back to what we talked about, I don't want the Packers receiver room to beat me. I think there's someone there who's going to emerge on a consistent week-to-week basis, whether it be Matthew Golden or Jaden Reed, who provides that immense value, and I'm getting there. If Dallas, if Jaden Blue, if Javonte Williams, can deliver on his, early day 2 draft pick status that he was a couple years back, let it burn me. I'm not going to really go there.
I'll tell you too. I think it's too early for me to issue a mea culpa on Matthew Golden. I was saying this on my radio show the other day, but dude, all the reports from all the beat writers are they're gushing over all the plays that he's making in practice too. Then again, they're gushing about Dontavian Wicks never dropping any balls. You just never know what's accurate. And what's not.
We always go back to, me and Terp love doing it, especially right, Balky, this late in draft, just saying some of those all preseason hype teams, the Terrace Marshalls, the Marquez Callaways, Carson Steele last year.
Darwin Thompson. Speaking of Chiefs running backs, that was another one too.
Yeah, there's been so many, and I'm sure it would be such a magical ride to go back to even 21, 22, even just a couple years back and see he was a top 10 round pick at some point in the $1 million draft, and it's because he just got a couple of preseason. Amir Abdullah back in 2014, or 2015 with the Lions. I could only imagine. I mean, David Montgomery's become a really good NFL player, but David Montgomery, his rookie year, his training camp clips were everywhere, and he found himself in the 3rd round, 4th round of drafts, and he didn't really emerge until way later in the year. If anything, 2nd, 3rd year of his career in Chicago, and then really burst out with the Lions. So there's just so many names littered throughout history of guys who get hype in the preseason, they rise up these draft boards and then deliver absolutely nothing.
I want to go back. I want to talk to you about the Texans running game here in a second, but I want to go back to Team 3. We have not talked about Matthew Book's team a whole lot tonight. Look at what he's doing here, Aidan. So in his first 6 picks, he goes with 5 wide receivers. But then after that, my goodness, I have not seen that much green since I was swimming in Scrooge McDuck's money bin. This is a ton of running backs here. Connor, Pacheco, Judkins, Benson, White, Johnson, Mitchell, Corum, Jordan James. What do you make of this strategy here? Peppering only in Dalton Kincaid and Mason Taylor at tight end and Kyler Murray at quarterback. This feels a little overkill on the running backs here to me.
It's overkill a bit. And what's weird is for, going 5 receivers in your first 6 rounds, can't say I love the receiver room. I'm good with CD as a top 3 pick. I think that's entirely valid.
AJ Brown was at cost.
Yeah.
We already talked about it. I think Paul Teixeira was saying that Marvin Harrison was a little bit of a lead.
And I'm a fan of Harrison, but it's just like I'm saying, if you're going to rock with this strategy, I need to feel so confident in my 5 receivers of carrying. And I just don't know. Waddle, McMillan, Harrison, and AJ Brown to a degree as well all have this kind of uncertainty. I mean, we saw last year, AJ Brown, there's a lot banking on the Eagles passing the ball a little more by product of maybe them being in some tighter games and
tougher schedule, and just like they ran the ball at an historic level last year. That just can't continue.
Yeah, it's not. But like, they are also just such a strange team. And again, goes back to I'm always rooting against them by product of going to college in Philadelphia and just surrounded by Eagles fans nonstop. So it wasn't before that, just an animosity for Philly, and they ribbed me about it. And perhaps to them, they are Super Bowl champions. But they're just a very weird team because that offense doesn't flow through the same guys week to week. So AJ Brown, again, at cost, I'm fine with, but there's just a little uncertainty there. But it does feel a bit overkill. But I will say this, Balky: Judkins, Benson, White, Roschon, Mitchell, Corum, Jordan James. I really don't hate any of those guys, especially where they were going. Judkins has kind of become an ultimate wild card now. I was a huge Dylan Sampson fan, again, going back to watching him at college, just because I watched so much SEC ball. He was a monster at Tennessee. And I liked him before the Judkins news. But, Judkins, if he does sign and the court case is resolved and nothing comes of it, that is a guy who was their 35th overall pick. And you're getting him now in the 10th round, when before that was the 5th, 6th round. Trey Benson, obviously the chat was talking about him. I think, Balky, you even mentioned that you're getting Benson and sprinkling in James Conner at cost.
Yeah.
Rashad White, don't love. Roschon Johnson, don't love. But again, we kind of talked about the uncertainty with DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson. The opportunity is there. Love Keaton Mitchell. We talked about, again, I'm a Jarquez Hunter guy, but it very well could be Blake Corum. Who knows? That RB2 room is interesting with what I said earlier about Kyren Williams. And I'm always a believer in taking your late round dart throws on late round Kyle Shanahan running backs, as we've seen that story before. So I really like the Jordan James pick. It does feel like overkill, but I don't hate the running backs he's taken. He has Benson and Connor there, so he has the Cardinals running back 1 is when Connor gets hurt. I wish I liked the receivers a little more to kind of fully endorse this strategy.
I would have liked just when I talk about overkill, I would have skipped one of these running backs in favor, like Kincaid and Mason Taylor. To me, that's very low floor. I think Kincaid bounces back this year, and I know Mason Taylor's had a strong camp, but Kincaid has had 2 lackluster seasons. Mason Taylor is a rookie on a team that probably is not going to pass the ball a whole lot. I would have liked to see, adding a Brenton Strange on this team, or even Zach Ertz. Ertz, who I think is everybody hates him because he's super old, but that guy's he puts up numbers every year, and I think he's going to do it again this year.
Even if you're banking on, you're clearly banking something on the Panthers' offensive strides that they showed at the end of last year to continue. Could have taken Jatavion Sanders in round 16. And then although they do take Terrence Ferguson here, so
I'm becoming more of a Tyler Higbee guy, but I recognize the upside.
Balky, that's disgusting. That's gross.
No.
That is horrible.
You're talking about a tight end that I think is probably their starter in 2026. Higbee had the injury. He was coming off the injury, I think, and was a little bit not all the way back.
Terrence Ferguson was a first-round pick, like it would have been if the Falcons weren't completely idiots. I'm just no. Where would he have gone? I'm just saying, because that does impact.
Well, just draft capital affects it, but Terrence Ferguson was not a first-round pick.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, they valued him. They were going to take him in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
They wanted Brock Bowers last year.
You could be right. I just feel like has Higbee gone yet? I think Higbee's cheaper.
Yeah,
than
I'm
Ferguson
just saying
right now.
I agree. Darren Waller, for example, going ahead, Noah Gray going ahead of Tyler Higbee is a little bit silly. I know there's uncertainty with stuff, but 18-10 You're getting a guy who the Rams have been looking for a tight end for the last 2 years, aiming to do it in the first round. Would have taken Terrence Ferguson in the first round if it wasn't for the Falcons giving them the mother load for James Pierce Jr., which is astounding. I think this is one of the best values in this draft and in all Big Gorilla drafts. You're getting this guy for free. Balky, if you're correct, just cut him. But I think he perfectly makes up for that uncertainty there. I think one of these two rookie tight ends is a hit in Mason Taylor or Terrence Ferguson for Team 3.
To me, it's just adding more uncertainty with Ferguson. Whereas Higbee is more of a known quantity, which I think that would make more sense with a Mason Taylor, Dalton Kincaid team. Now, Ferguson, he is going to be a free agent after this season. This is his last year, and I think it's the Terrence.
Was Amari Cooper just drafted when he retired? That's insanity.
I didn't know Amari Cooper retired.
Amari Cooper retired today, and he just got drafted.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Amari Cooper retired. Son of a gun.
Talk about that. All of a sudden, James Cook and Hunter Henry are. Come on, guys. I know it's for
okay. I didn't know that. No, granted, I had a busy day today, but I did not know Amari Cooper hung it up today. That's wild.
Did I? Maybe I got pranked, but I got.
No, I believe you. I'm looking it up right now.
And Ari Marov.
Oh yeah, it's fake.
God.
Yeah,
I got.
It looks like it. It looks like it.
Dave is going to come in here and be like, "Oh, instant." It was Adam Shelfer. That's rough. That's rough. All of a sudden, my analysis has gone from an 11 to a 1 because of that. Team 4, I apologize.
That's good.
Oh man,
that's good. That's good.
Tough. I fully believe that, and because it makes sense that he would retire after how poor he was last year. Oh man, I love it too. The X as the bio clearly shows, this is not a real Adam Schefter account. And either I just ignored that or that wasn't there when I was scrolling through.
That's okay. We've all got before. I want to bring it back.
Much better than 19th round than early on.
Right. I do want to bring this back to Higbee just real quick. Not that I'm advocating for everybody to take him, but this guy, his last 3 games last year, so he didn't play until December, if you remember, but his last 3 games, 5 for 46 and a touchdown, 5 for 58, and then 7 for 54 and a touchdown. Now, I understand Devontae Adams is probably going to be a significant improvement over Cooper Kupp, but at the same time, Higbee's still going to factor in. I am still Team Higbee this season for 2025 based on his usage in his brief time last year. After that, yeah, it's anchors away for Terrence Ferguson in 2026. Moving on to something I wanted to talk about like 20 minutes ago, but we keep getting bogged down with other analysis. What do you make of the Houston running back room right now? We talked briefly about Joe Mixon with our buddy Igor Grobenko, who ended up drafting him in the 8th round. We see Nick Chubb go to Brady Stewart tonight at the 12-13 turn. Am I looking at that? No, 13-14 turn, excuse me. That's where we see Nick Chubb go. And then Woody Marks, Jaquavius Woody Marks goes to Frankie Bornoni in the 15th round. Aidan, what do you think and what have you seen how FFPC players are handling this situation, which again is very fluid right now because the Texans have been very cagey about Joe Mixon all offseason. Nick Chubb to me is a guy that I don't really see the upside there. I see only downside. And then Woody Marks, I like him in best ball, but he might just be a pass catcher. So I don't know how should people be handling this?
I was with you on Chubb. And I love not being like a paid industry expert analysis because then I can watch your I think it was on Pros v Joes or was it on Insider Access where Jim Coventry from RotoWire was just hyping up Nick Chubb and I'm like,
that's Pros versus Joes. Yeah,
I was like, okay, maybe I can get behind Nick Chubb and he's benching the same as he used to be and deadlifting and it's like hell yeah, Nick Chubb is back. I think my answer is still Joe Mixon, especially at this depressed cost.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he misses some time, he goes here in the 8th round. You're seeing him kind of in this 8th, 9th round. I think Moji even posted there was one time he fell into the 10th. Yes, the efficiency dropped next year. I think the Texans' offense does bounce back. Now, some of that is factoring in a healthy Mixon. You also have to remember, I believe Mixon did suffer a high ankle sprain last year, which I think is always contributing. Now, it's super concerning right, then I can sit here and say like, well, he's clearly still dealing with some foot injury.
Mm-hmm.
Mixon for now is my answer. The more closer we draw to the season starting, and if we have no clarity, it might pivot. But for now, Joe Mixon around 8-9. You could be looking back at, and you're getting a real value from a guy who, it could produce, that round 4 or 5 value that he was originally being drafted as.
I've knocked Mixon and Judkins down in a completely arbitrary round to round 10, just because it's double digits. Yeah. I'm like, that's where I'm going to start looking at these guys. Yeah. And the more like that Mixon keeps getting scooped up in the 8th and 9th round, the more I'm like, God, I think I'm missing out. I think I really should have gone after him harder. Mixon, by the way, one of the best fantasy running backs last season, like top 5 or top 10, like he was awesome. He paid off on his ADP. The thing is this year, I don't necessarily think the drafting of Woody Marks and the signing of Nick Chubb is great. 1, for his usage, and 2, for what it says about his injury recovery. And then 3, Laramie Tunsil is a commander. Like this offensive line in Houston.
And it wasn't good last year. Anyway.
It wasn't good last year, and it got significantly worse. And Mixon, to me, is a guy like, you can only get the ball in space to him so much. Like you do need an offensive line there. So as much as I'd like to say, hey, Mixon is a great buy here, 4 rounds past where he normally was going a month or so ago, I still got to realize that, this could be, with all these factors combined, just still a bad pick in the 8th round or 9th round. Now, for a guy like Igor, who drafted him as his number 4 running back, if Mixon misses, he's not going to feel that pain as much because he's got Gibbs, he's got Irving, he's got Kyron Williams. He hit wide receiver after that. He hit Cam Scadaboo right after that as well. So I think like your team build kind of depends upon whether you should be taking Joe Mixon at his new cost as well.
And it's going to be really fascinating to monitor. Let's say there's no news updates and this uncertainty continues and he keeps dropping. In this contest, right, there's going to be guys who, were taking Joe Mixon in round 4 and then you buy, buying the dip, right, round 8. And then the guys who are really buying the dip when it's now round 12, 13. And then if he plays later in the season, and some of these teams could be, in a really strong spot if they're getting even like moderately healthy, usage rate Joe Mixon as like, their 5th, 6th running back because they, come the last weeks of August, first weeks of September. So it's one of the most fascinating situations to monitor. Like the likely one, for example, another big injury feels pretty cut and dry. Like he may miss a couple of weeks, but he'll be back by, you would expect, week 3, 4 if everything's going right. Mixon, like there is some serious question because no one seems to have any idea what's going on there because of the lack of transparency.
What injury is more concerning for you right now, Joe Mixon's or Chris Godwin's?
Probably Godwin's. Godwin's leg borderline fell off. There's no shot. It was insanity that he was getting drafted in like the 4th, 5th round at times. The 7th, 8th round that he's been going now is still insane to me. There's a 0% chance he returns.
I don't think it was insane in the 4th and 5th early in the draft season. Number 1, because I did that in a couple of drafts. Number 2,
okay. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. But Aidan, the Buccaneers after this injury gave him a ton of cash. I mean, like, who knows the Buccaneers or who knows Chris Godwin better than the Buccaneers? They paid him. Yeah. Apparently the Patriots were also willing to pay this guy. Yeah. So to me, like early on in the season, I'm like, okay, he's going to be recovered. It's going to be fine. And then he's not practicing. And then they don't know. And then they invest a first-round pick in Agbuka. And so just to complete this thought, so the reason I'm agreeing with you, it's Godwin. Like, who's behind Joe Mixon? It's Nick Chubb and Woody Marks. Who's behind Chris Godwin? First-round draft pick Emeka Egbuka. That's a big deal in fantasy when it comes to which one you're treating more seriously.
The Godwin thing is purely injury-based. He's a great human being by all reports. It almost seems to me as the Bucs did right. And some of these things are, they're not. It's not a 1-year contract. He should be back to close to hopefully full health come 2026, and then we can talk. But just recovery for, multi-ligament tears. I believe he also had ankle reconstruction. There was something there. I don't know exactly if it was tightrope or not, but it was something along those lines.
I thought I heard that he has screws in his knee and his foot. Oh,
it's just a mess. I just not only would I think it would just I think you're going to look at Godwin as a guy where it's like he's like, yeah, I didn't like come next season. It's like, yeah, I started really feeling myself like week 14, 15. And then you're kind of like, oh, that's when his efficiency picked up a bit. He kind of got more in the rhythm. But, when you're investing a top 8 round pick on this guy, who I don't think he's even going to be close to 100% health until maybe later in the season, if not next year.
Yeah, it's tough, and it stinks. I'm with Dizzle on this, that he's a good guy. I mean, I saw him on was it Hard Knocks? I feel like I was watching. Were the Buccaneers on Hard Knocks a couple of years ago? Like when Godwin was a rookie? Well, this would have been more than a couple of years ago then. Maybe it was like 5 or 6 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever it was.
Godwin's a couple of years. That's like 2018. Feels about right. Feels about right.
So, but the Buccaneers were on, right? Weren't they?
You're asking the wrong guy.
Right.
I cannot. The only Hard Knocks season I really remember was the Raiders.
When does Hard Knocks start? Or has it already? I feel like I'm missing out.
I believe it starts usually the first weekend in August. So not this weekend, but maybe next weekend.
All right. So yes, 2017, according to Google AI, the Buccaneers were featured on Hard Knocks. Jameis Winston was on that team. Gerald McCoy, who's gone on to the NFL analyst industry. Deshaun Jackson was on that team, and then Chris Godwin. That was his rookie year. Who was the coach then? Was that Gruden? Was he the coach of the Buccaneers? I can't remember. But anyway, we're boring everybody. There's no reason to stay tuned. The draft is finished. And for all of you who are on the edge of your seat, Phil Maffa did get drafted by Paul Teixeira tonight at the 1911. You can rest easy. The league winner, the $1 million, is going to Paul Teixeira because he has Phil Maffa on his team. Aidan, I'm kidding around. We're having some fun here tonight. This was awesome. You were fantastic on this.
I wanted one trivia. I want to put trivia before I go. What's Chris Godwin's real first name?
I don't know.
What's Chris Godwin's real first name? Rod Godwin.
Rod? His real first name is Rod? Rod Godwin.
Yep.
Why he goes by Chris, I'll never know. Oh, well. Aidan, we will catch you on this stream. Is it next Wednesday you're doing one? Or you don't know?
When is draft against Terp?
Okay.
Yep.
So
next Wednesday.
And is that Big Gorilla?
We are doing a best ball tournament next Wednesday at 9:30 against Terp's in it. It's 11 drafters against Terp.
Okay, perfect. And that will start at 9:30 Eastern. You can check that out then. That's when you can see Aidan Liquorie dropping knowledge here as he hosts that show this coming Wednesday. Until then, connect with him on X at Aidan Liquorie. Aidan, thank you so much, man. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too, Balky.
That will complete live draft coverage for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. It was a fun week. We had this was live draft week here at the FFPC. 3 pros versus Joes, a main event, best ball tournament, and now Big Gorilla tonight. It was awesome, and had a lot of fun broadcasting to each and every one of you. I want to thank Paul Teixeira, Jamie Cox, Uncle Bacon, Igor Gorbenko, Aidan Liquorie, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. We will be back next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time for a more normal high-stakes fantasy football hour. In case you missed last night's Insider Access show, you can watch it back on the Better Sports Network, as well as the FFPC socials. Justin Herzig from Establish the Run and ffn60.com joined me to cover a live FFPC Best Ball Tournament draft, which was awesome. And then coming up this Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern time, RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown is back for our last off-season episode with Rick Raymaker, who is a multi-time FFPC League champion. He also drafted in Pros versus Joes this year. We're going to get his thoughts on his draft there, as well as his other drafts he's been doing. That's going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday night. FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament features a $1 million grand prize. If you think you could do it better than these drafters did tonight, register now at myffpc.com. That 7 Bananas promo is live there as well. Check that out. And you could win a jungle safari for $4 or $50,000. FFPC Main Event also features a $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool. We're going to have live drafts going on each and every night until the start of the NFL season. So if you want to draft for that, you're always going to have the opportunity for live main event drafts throughout the rest of this month and September. FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournament available at myffpc.com as well. Check that out. A $100,000 runner-up prize has been added to the Best Ball Tournament this year. $300,000 to first place, $125 to enter that one. You can enter the Superflex one for $35. and still have the opportunity to win $100,000 there. Dynasty startups, of course, going on throughout the rest of the summer as well. 2,000 plus dynasty leagues that we manage here at FFPC. None have ever folded in a decade and a half. You are in for the long haul when you play dynasty at the FFPC, and you go there at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which will be Tuesday with myself and Rick Raymaker on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. We'll see you then, everybody. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Want to remind everybody, too, if you are looking for action, late night action, if you got wrapped up into this draft in, let's see, we have, looking at this right now, probably not going to fill the midnight draft. No, that's probably not going to fill tonight. However, we do have an 11 o'clock draft tomorrow morning, Eastern time. So if you want to get in some morning drafting, please do so. We encourage that type of behavior, and then drafts all the way through the afternoon, into the evening, and into the overnight as well tomorrow night for the FFPC Big Gorilla. Commissioned by, you guessed it, yours truly. See you in the draft room this weekend, everybody. Welcome to August. Welcome to the preseason. Welcome to drafting for $1 million with the FFPC.